I'm going to call the April 1st, 2026 City Council meeting for the City of Gerhart to order. I do have an addition to the agenda. I would like a consensus to add piece of paper in front of you. It is authorization to use water reserve funds for completion of the water meter project. That would be number 5 of new business. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any declaration of conflict of interest by anyone?
No.
Let me go ahead and just tell you that the mayor just called me in between the breaks. He's having difficulty with the technology in the location that he's in. And also, he did give me one item. I'll do that under the mayor's report for him. Can I get an approval of minutes for the regular meeting of March 4th?
Move to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting Wednesday, March 4th, 2026.
I'll second.
Any corrections, changes, or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Planning Commission report, there is none. Under the mayor's report, he wanted a reminder to everyone that the SEI report is due to the Ethics Commission?
Yeah.
To the Ethics Commission. Statement of Economic Interest
Good.
is due by April 15th. Councilor reports, Ms. Sharon.
Let's see. I attended to the elected officials meeting at the fairgrounds, which the topic of which was consolidation of our dispatch services. Multiple fire chiefs were there, some police representatives were there from all the way from Astoria down to Cannon Beach, I think was maybe the farthest south, but it was our entire area. A lot of people in that industry currently were there and had comments to make and made some presentations as well. So that's being looked at very closely. It has been looked at in the past, and it's never come together so far. But sounds like the sentiment is there to try to get that to come together. We also had a Seaside Airport Committee meeting. And one of the things that we talked about was the possibility of having an air show put on in September in Seaside. So we're going to discuss that, but that's all.
Stay. Okay, I had a busy month. I attended the Clatsop County elected officials meeting about the communication system across the county. I spoke with UPS, USPS on numerous occasions, including the local Seaside postmaster. I'm happy to report that they are going to honor the letter that they gave us in our boxes in January that said that we could pick up our mail as early as 8:30. However, between 8:30 and 10:30, you will only be able to pick up old mail. New mail will not be sorted and ready for your pickup until after that. And I shared with them some other citizens' complaints that I received, and I'm glad that they've resolved those as far as I could tell. Attended a CEDAR meeting, and they had some interesting information about FEMA lawsuits going on that I've passed the information on to Chad and I asked him to look into. Cannon Beach has reported that they're moving their furniture into their new police station. Businesses across the county are still reporting the biggest obstacle to recruiting employees is housing. And many people in the CEDAR meeting commented that in order to build houses, you need water. And I informed them that we had applied for water and that our water application was still sitting there in the queue. And we were told, don't call us, we'll call you. This next weekend, I'm going to be attending the Easter egg hunt that is being put on by the fire department. And that is my major shout out. I want to say thank you to them for hosting that. That is phenomenal. Next week, I intend to go to the county commissioners meeting. And the week after that, I'll be going to the Gerhart Rural Fire District meeting. And then May 1st, the League of Oregon Small City meeting in Manzanita. Preston?
I also attended the phony 911 dispatch double Astoria's Dispatch Center and Seaside's Dispatch Center that have been fighting for the last 35 years. And it was just the same old. That the county is dragging its feet. They love these meetings. Nobody wants to do anything about it. They don't want to give up their turf, is basically what it amounts to. And I think it's all nonsense. But we have no say in it since we're dispatched out of Seaside. Should have one dispatch center in this county. And it should have its own taxing district. Anyway.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, my report, I did meet with Counselor Sharon, our attorney, and Chief Gregory. We went over the current noise ordinance, looking at some potential improvements in that since we are in the process of letting go of the contractors' work hours. Also attended the county electeds meeting. Met with Mayor Perry to review preparations for Chad's eval that's coming up. Met with Chad about coffee with the counselor that I'm going to be having on April 4th, April 18th, and May 2nd. 2 of those are art walk days. And I'll be having those over at the fire station from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So please get the word out. We'd love to show the place off and answer any questions you might have. Around noon today, I did a KMUN interview, what it's like to be the mayor of a small town. Somebody heard I was one once, and so I did that interview. It will be aired later on. That's all I have. City officer reports. We have just what was.
Ian was gonna cover for Josh Gregory, but he just went out on a call.
Okay.
So we won't get an update from him, but I do believe you have his reports.
They were elected.
Online, and for the council, they were put in your box just this afternoon,
Okay.
I think.
Fire.
So, Chief Como isn't feeling well, so I'm gonna cover for him tonight. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Henry Schindel, I'm the training and operations officer for the fire department. So in March, we had 55 calls for service, 27 of those were inside city limits, 23 were in district. We had 5 mutual aid calls. One was an MCI for Seaside, and then 3 others we covered for their banquet. Warrenton, we had 1 structure fire, and then we received 2 mutual aids from Seaside for medical transport in the month of March. Also, we got some correspondence asking exactly what we do as a fire department for our citizens. So kind of high level, I wanted to talk about a couple things. It's obviously incident response. So in that, we go to small things like this morning, we help somebody change their tire that had a flat tire in their driveway, or we go to somebody that's in cardiac arrest and help CPR and get them transported to the hospital. Prevention wise, we do several different things like school assemblies, school field trips. Earlier in February, we did a big event up at the bowling alley there with the 6th graders and brought out equipment, let them see what kind of stuff we have on engine, touch and feel, things. So, we do those things, school visits, presentations, that kind of stuff. We also, if somebody has a fire alarm that's giving them trouble and we have the time to do it, we'll go into their home and figure that out for them. Investigation wise, we do post fires, commercial inspections, those kinds of things along the line. So if somebody's building a new house, we want to make sure their driveway's, wide enough to get anything in, that we have enough footage around the building to be able to get our 150 feet of hose around that building or into the building. And then training, like every Wednesday night tonight, we're doing a training night. So all of my volunteers are over there right now. So we'll conduct training every Wednesday, and we do training for the community. So that ranges from basic first aid all the way up to inviting people to come see us actually on our drills. And hopefully, pretty soon we'll be able to have an open drill night where the community can come in and watch us cut up a car or run hose lines or do something like that. Community involvement, you mentioned the Easter egg hunt. We're doing that this weekend, 4th of July festival, and then we do like the trick or treat stuff. During Christmas, we participate in some parades, throw out some candy, decorate up our trucks, let the kids come climb all over them and do that kind of thing. There is a creed that we kind of go by, and it's that we stand ready to serve our community at any hours or any conditions. So what that pretty much means is when everybody's sleeping in the middle of the night, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we're getting up to answer a call to service. Most of my volunteers, well, I shouldn't say most, all my volunteers do it because we're doing something, that is greater than ourselves, and we want to give back to what's been given to us in the past. So that pretty much sums up our time for the month. You guys have any questions?
Well, I maybe you can tell me if I'm correct. I can't find the email right now, or where the message is. But at one point, I asked Chief Como how much money you all had raised for yourself since 2019, and I think he said it was well over $1 million you had raised on your own through your own efforts in order to continue being able to serve us. Does that sound about right? Do you know?
That does sound about right. I'd have to look at.
I know it was over $1 million, but I can't say for some reason $1,020,000 or $1,200,000 is the number that's kind of coming to me. So I wouldn't testify to either, but I know it was over $1 million. So I want to thank you guys for everything that you did.
Thank you for your report.
No, thanks.
Yep.
Justine?
Last month's financials were really financially uneventful and created no major issues or areas of concern. Some noteworthy things that happened were the bench program saw some activity for the first time. There were contributions received for 3 sponsored benches, which were put in account 410002, bench purchase and maintenance. There was also an expenditure in account 4121, purchase services for several benches that had been power washed by a third party vendor. I don't know if any of you have seen them that have been power washed out there. He had sent us pictures and they look really nice. So they did a really nice job. There was also an expenditure in planning in account 101706 for an invoice from the Public Employees Retirement System, also known as PERS. The invoice was from many years ago when an employee that was retired, so they worked for the city of Gerhart, they retired and then were hired back as a retired rehiree in a city position, so it was an active position. City staff at the time were not aware that legislation had changed and that employers were required to pay the employer contribution. It was part of some of the legislative changes to help the PERS rate. So we had to go back and we had to pay on several years. Some of the years were not subject because the law had changed in the mid-year, so that they finished out and we had to go back and pay for the amount that was due on that member. It doesn't affect their retirement, or it doesn't affect, it was just a legislative change that it made to help the PERS system try to gain back some of the money that they're losing. The retired information, all the information's been submitted now, all the records have been submitted, and the invoice has been paid, so there's no issues. Just as a reminder, the budget committee meeting is coming up on Wednesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. And the city is working diligent to provide a balanced budget. And I just ask and encourage everyone to come and to keep an open mind and have thoughtful input.
Thank you. Chad Jacobs is here. Yep. You have the floor.
Good evening, Council. Chad Jacobs from the Interim City Attorney's Office. I don't really have anything to report other than we continue to work with staff diligently and enjoy working with them. They're doing a great job. But if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
I think we may have some questions down the agenda a ways for you.
Sounds good. I'll be here.
Chad?
Thank you, Council. So over the past month, we continued coordinating on a wide range of city matters and operational issues. Included the joint city-county elected officials meeting. We talked about 911 emergency dispatch, participating in the monthly North Coast Managers meeting, attending city council meetings, of course, meetings with multiple councilors, department heads, planning staff, ongoing city business. We also coordinated with Public Works, including discussions with the Public Works Director on multiple projects and follow-up with Public Works staff and the water clerk. And one of those items will be hitting us today is the addition for the water meter project. We're also looking at some water connections around town and what that's going to cost, and beginning to study that to improve our system. We've worked on emergency preparedness in regards to tsunami and some of the information that people have been asking questions about the city. We're working on the public safety facilities project. Have some discussions about help, but not many. It seems like that's percolating a little bit more. Concerns related to Hill Lane, and that's all in the administrator's report. Major area of focus has been the public safety facilities project, and that included public information updates that we put out, election related materials, facility planning. We worked with USPS, as you've seen. We're going to get an update on that later, but that kind of sums it up, unless there's any particular questions about the different meetings and coordination we had on our list. There was a FEMA update, as Councilor Dean was asking about. As near as I can tell from the information that we received, this was a lawsuit that was put on by conservation groups saying that FEMA may not have been restrictive enough. That lawsuit doesn't seem to have made much in the way of any grounds. I think that it was dismissed because FEMA is still in the process. So other than that, we haven't heard of any other lawsuits that have been going either way with that, but we're paying attention to it. I discussed that with Garrett today.
There was a lawsuit that related to the foundation at Columbia Memorial that I thought was in the paper that said that the current administration was needing to fund that.
Oh, that in
Yeah.
regards to brick funding?
Correct.
That's.
Yeah, there's still some go back and forth between whether or not funding is available, and it sounds pretty positive. I went to a doctor's appointment there the other week and looked in on that building that they're doing there. It is absolutely amazing the amount of underground work that they were putting in. And just for reference, if the city would have had gone for, went for the project that we were discussing with all the underground work, it would have looked a lot like that. They also had to go down 60 feet. And that's what they're currently doing, being funded for through some various organizations and themselves and fundraising.
Do you
So-
know, do you know what that budget is?
And no, I don't. I'd be curious to know, but I don't.
The Burt grant was 10 million, but I think that was just a piece.
Yeah, I think that was.
It's a big project. Great place to bring your grandkids to watch if you want. That's my update.
Okay, we don't have any visitors on the agenda. Next, we have public communications, written and oral. Oral public comment, anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks are limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder no later than 4 p.m. day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. And I believe I did see 2 people have signed in. Let me just get the list and then we'll move forward. Okay, Deanna Mansell. Name and address, please.
Deanna Mansell, 2945-101 North Gerhart. I had submitted a letter to you guys to send your packet. I just wanted to bring you guys up a little bit more information. I had talked about the kid property, not abiding by his legal boundary survey, and I included that in your packet. I've spent several years surveying in this area, and the topic on the letter is the Philip Gerhart donation land claim line. And we surveyed extensively up there at the Gerhart Palisades. Carl Feste back in '81 found the Philip Gerhart DLC line buried in 5 feet of sand, and that marked the northern boundary of the Palisades. So he established that line in 1981, and since then, other surveyors have gone into the Palisades and used the plat dimensions for each one of those lots, and the west boundary was always the donation land claim line. Now, why we did not go any further west is because there was an issue of ownership. We didn't know if it was owned by the state of Oregon, if it's owned by the city of Gerhart. So we as surveyors deliberately followed the law and did it according to the plat dimensions. So this kid property, I was using Google Earth, and I was able to load maps into Google Earth, and I could draw where the Philip donation land claim line was, and I lay it over Google Earth, and I could see that the fence and most of the drain field was way over the line. And my concern is I have never seen anyone in 48 years ever ignore a legal boundary survey and just blow it off and build his fence way out into the dunes. Now, we have people that live in those condominiums, and their drain field is in front of the condominiums. And when kid built his fence down that line, it blocked at septic tank the ability to access those drain fields. They do an annual inspection. The Oceanside and the Pacific Terrace, they all have their drain fields out there. They can't get out there and access. And so what I'm asking this council to study is, you know, the legal ownership. Like, if you can visualize the Surfside Motel and that Philip Gerhardt line that comes through there, it touches the northeast corner of that building. So that is where that DLC line comes. And so when kid built his fence, he went way to the west. He wasn't supposed to, and it's really hurting these people at the condominiums in a big way. It's a public health issue. And you really need to review all the materials. I mean, I pulled up all the surveys to verify what other surveyors did. And he is the only one that's actually, you know, done far more than he was legally entitled to. So I just would ask you to study this, because it's a really important issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Chad, you've submitted that to our Chad,
Yes.
and
Sure.
we're gonna get an answer to that in the future.
If the council is directing us to get some more information on this, we would be happy to.
Yeah, I don't wanna get into a situation where we're in the public talking about complaints against particular residents. That's not the appropriate venue, but yeah, we could look into it.
Okay,
Okay,
so based on the written, probably, as well as what Deanna has just said, we want a consensus from the council.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've got a comment, okay? Number one, 13th Street is basically on private property,
It is.
right? To give you some history, when Barney Lucas bought the hotel and the golf course and the Palisades property and the gun club property, or Ritchie Development, okay, from the Meyer and Frank Company, and then sold the hotel and the Ritchie Development property to John Osborne and Marshall Leathers. That wasn't even in the city. The city ended at what 10th Street is, or the beach approach, all the way from the beach, all the way across to McCormick Gardens Road. Right? When they split that off and John Osborne built the Surfside Motel, he put in where the horse trail used to be, the 13th Street. Between Barney Lucas and the Hotel Gerhardt property, 40 feet or 60 feet in all the acreage didn't even make any difference. But the people on the southeast corner and Judge Quigley's place and the Palisades, their property line runs 5 feet south of where 13th Street goes down. That's all that was the Palisades property. And it clipped the edge of the Surfside condominiums or the Surfside Motel. Okay?
You know, I'd like to correct you on that.
Okay, I don't care what Carl Feste found up in the Palisades there. Okay? And until just a minute, Dana. Until 1966, when the controversy in Cannon Beach with Bill Hay and putting posts in the ground there and rope around it for his hotel patrons. And Tom McCall forced the federal government into surveying entire west coast. People in the Palisades owned out to the vegetation line. Okay? When they resurveyed the entire west coast, the people in the Palisades, and unlike Surf Pines, people in the Palisades owned to the vegetation line. When they resurveyed the west coast, the line between private property and public property, that's the line. And that was in 1967.
I have to correct you on that subject.
I'm gonna stop right now.
Okay,
Okay, I just wanna say, if we're going to direct Chad Jacobs to look into this, that's gonna cost us money. So my question, maybe to Chad Jacobs, is this a city matter or is this a civil matter?
Or a county matter.
The kid's property is in the county.
I'm just asking if the city of Gerhart really needs to spend money on this, is all what I'm asking. So is this,
That's a valid question.
Yeah, it's really a call for you all if you want to spend money on this. I don't think there's any legal obligation to do so. You know, you've been asked this question to the extent that, you know, there's any arguments that there's a city code being violated. The city has discretion about, you know, which code violations it's going to go after and which it's not, based on budgetary and other concerns. So, you know, it's really up to you. I honestly have not had a chance to really dig into this issue. I know Chad sent me a copy of the letter, but we were waiting honestly to get direction from you all before I spent any time on it. So as not to basically spend money like you're talking about. And so long-winded way of saying that, no, there's no legal obligation for you to look into this. It's a matter if you want to look to see if there are any code violations and to go after those. To the extent that this is a property line dispute between private property owners, that is a private civil matter. To the extent it's a dispute between whether or not, you know, a property owner has encroached on land that's not owned by the city, you know, that's a matter between whoever that property owner is, whether it's the state government, the county, or the federal government, whomever. You know, it's a matter between them. You know, so unless it's city-owned property where there's a city code violation, that's where we would get involved. And whether to what extent you want to enforce city codes is really discretionary on your part.
okay, so we can either, we can add this to an agenda for the next city council meeting if you wanna talk about it.
Yeah, my only question would be, would it be within our purview? If it's not within our purview, then I agree with you.
I believe it is within our purview. We control it in regards to our growth boundary and our zone code. That's where most of the laws.
I would wanna know if there's been a code violation myself.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a pretty simple fix. There either is or there isn't, and I rely on Chad to direct us on that. Chad.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get through it a lot faster than I could. There's a lot of information
But
there.
It's not on our agenda, and I would hate for us to
Yeah, I would recommend we
get
do that,
sidelined.
and then we report back to you for the next meeting.
So he's gonna do a review, or we're gonna put it on the next agenda for a report out.
Sure.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Before Tom speaks, we have another piece of, is Bateman, Stadell, you're considering that late?
Well, I think it goes with the, probably with the discussion that's later on. It came in later.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
And then same on the one that says Palmberg property testimony. This is from Chad Jacobs.
Yeah, those two go together,
Okay, got it.
and will be useful in another conversation when we get there.
Okay, sorry, Tom,
No, no problem.
you have the floor.
Tom Teese, Hill Bronx 2831, trying to change it to 92. 292 with me.
To be determined.
I read a little bit of this, I read a bunch of this last year at one time, and I've kind of redone it. But I find it really important to say, this is for our firefighters. Again, we have a chance to make their lives and workspace a little bit better for them and our community. I believe we continue to lose our way about our fire department. They are our first responders and our neighbors. They give us so much themselves to support our community. It's our turn to support them. We should be focused on the heart and soul of our fire department. They aren't just firefighters. They are there for medical calls, car wrecks, fires, and the list goes on. Often before an ambulance. Imagine responding to a car accident when the cars were so entangled you couldn't tell one from the other. Or a medical call of a husband, wife, or child who has collapsed and they are doing CPR while the family watches. Pulling a pet out of a fire, limp and lifeless, and bring it back to life. Helping someone who fell down in a wheelchair, has fallen, needs help getting up. Responding to a wildfire in our sand dunes or something else. Sometimes it calls some tragic endings. If everyone remembers, plane crash in Deerhart. Remember how they also spent days helping to clear trees after 2007 storm, with some of the firefighters actually sleeping on the station floor, cement floor, by the way, to help respond more quickly. Day or night, they are there. They are there handing out hot dogs, hamburgers on the 4th of July. Instead of being with their families, they are putting our Easter eggs out for the little ones for Easter. They are there helping fire safety at school and at school assemblies. They are helping install smoke detectors if needed. They are there. They are our volunteers. Now it's fire and rescue and all the many certifications that volunteers need to have before they can do anything. And hours of training. Now you have to be certified by state guidelines, plus yearly training, schooling, to help keep your certifications up to date. You are no longer just sitting around waiting for a fire. They are there cutting you out of the car so you can get loaded onto an ambulance, direct traffic, so our ambulance can get to you. They are there helping with lifting you up on an ambulance journey when you're down. They are there with fire hose in their hands, putting out your fire. They are there when you need them the most. I want to say thank you to all of our volunteers and firefighters. You are appreciated, really appreciated by me. I wish you would let them know that. There is one other thing I would like to say. 11 years ago, Deerhart put together a citizens committee for finding a spot for our fire station. With almost 2 years of committee meetings and using outside sources for help, the city council ended up with one, a little more than an acre out of 36 acres of city-owned park property at the cost of $5 million. And that was always also going to include a fire engine. This and 2 other places were turned down by no votes or threats of lawsuits. From the start, the no votes monitored it where it is now. At first, this could not happen because state and federal code, until that code was changed. Now we are back to where we are now. And what I don't understand is why we are seeing no vote signs when the no voters wanted it here all along. This should be an easy vote, very easy vote, yes. And through all of this, they are still there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is ordinance 954, an ordinance granting Vero Broadband a telecommunications franchise in Deerhart. Chad, you wanna give us the synopsis?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, council. So Vero is a broadband company and they approached the city on installing broadband capabilities throughout Deerhart. Like other telecommunication franchisers, like, for example, CenturyLink, Spectrum, we have, Recology, Pacific Power, Northwest Natural Gas, all have franchises with us. A franchise agreement is required for them to bring in service into our city. They, under this agreement, will remit quarterly franchise fees at 7%. The agreement expires in 10 years with the option to review terms and renew. As the majority of the city's franchise agreement has been entered in via ordinance, this is being presented to council as ordinance 954 to maintain consistency in our policy practices. We did initial or additional review on this agreement before bringing it forward to council, and we used a lady named Nancy Warner. She's a city outside telecommunications counsel. She's an expert in these kind of franchise agreements. Chad Jacobs and BEH recommended her to us to do this. So we worked with Vero's team, Grant Chappelle, even Biagli, Chris Petilla. I'm pronouncing that incorrect, so I'm just going to go back to Chris. To negotiate and refine the draft. Those discussions focus on key terms, agreement terms, insurance, franchise free payments, audit rights, transfer language, and protection of the city's authority in the right of way. The agreement will allow Vero to construct, operate, and maintain broadband and telecommunications infrastructure in the city to provide internet and related telecommunication services within Gerhard. So this is a fiber optic system that they would put up mostly on the poles, various different ways, on the existing poles that are within Gerhard, and potentially provide high-speed internet access through fiber through most of Gerhard, or through, I'm going to say through part of Gerhard. It's going to take them time to kind of get up on that. Currently, there's not a fiber line into Gerhard available to our into the town, except for a few commercial and a few areas where by the highway, but in the greater part of Gerhard, it is not. So this would increase our services or services available to our citizenry if the council decides to move forward.
So Chad, what happens in the areas where there's no poles?
There's various underground areas that do have conduit and things like that, but it's going to take some time for verified fiber to figure that out. If there are no poles in that area, I'm not sure that they would put the actual fiber optics into it. But this is also a connection system. So there's current infrastructure underground in various places in Gerhard. I can't talk about any specific place, but I'll give you an example. There are coax cable that brings charter and to various businesses. By bringing fiber closer to that, then they will take and reuse some of those available wires that are already in the ground. But it's not going to be all in Gerhard all at once, but it's going to provide it through probably the central part of Gerhard first, and then eventually branch out over time. But not in poles, it would have to be underground. We don't anticipate installing any more poles around town.
So are you saying this whole project is going to be underground
No, it's going to be mostly above ground at this point.
on existing poles?
Yes,
Right, so my whole neighborhood, there's no poles. Everything's underground.
correct.
So what are they gonna do in a neighborhood like that? Are they gonna be digging up the neighborhood?
The fact that the internet access is coming into Gerhard using the fiber optics will increase speed. And then from there, that internet access would be branched out via other means potentially and be still pretty darn fast because of the incoming fiber. But I'm not sure exactly neighborhood to neighborhood, it's going to be some time, but they feel that the investment is worth it for them to bring it in and they'd be able to provide it for quite a few customers in Gerhard.
Right, but I wanna know, this is a 10-year contract, correct?
Mhm.
So I wanna know if 5 years down the line, if they're gonna have to dig up my entire neighborhood. I mean, I need to know about that before I can make a decision. Right?
Yeah, I would assume so, but that's not their intention through this agreement, and I'm gonna have to look it up again, but it was just to provide it on the polls at this point. Now, I'll give you an example, if they're gonna tear up an entire neighborhood, there's other places that have Northwest Natural Gas. And there's places in town that don't quite have easy access to it. So when Northwest Natural Gas expanded into various parts of newer neighborhoods and what have you, or existing neighborhoods that did not have the gas, then yeah, they would tear up the streets or the side area, the right of way, and bury that infrastructure. This agreement, I believe, would give them the right to do that if they move forward with it, yes.
Right, it gives them the right to be able to tear up wherever they need to tear up.
Similar to Pacific Power, Northwest Natural Gas,
Right.
CenturyLink, and the others, yes.
I have a question for you. What type of risk would we be exposed to since we already have similar franchise with CenturyLink and Spectrum? If we were to deny somebody requesting equal access, would that be a problem for us?
That would be a question that I'd have to ask our attorney.
He's still here, he's right there.
I can tell you one thing, fiber optic is gonna be a heck of a lot faster than CenturyLink or Spectrum.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Chad Jacobs, can you weigh in on our exposure? If we deny somebody coming in asking for equal access?
Yeah, so generally speaking, and this is not my area of expertise, which is why we brought in Nancy Warner, as Chad Sweet said at the beginning of his presentation. But generally speaking, you want to be providing equal access to all providers to the extent that there is capacity within the right of way. To the extent that there's not capacity, then there could be a valid reason to say no. I will say, based on just looking through the franchise agreement, while the company would have the right, just like other utilities, to do construction within the right of way, just like other utilities, they have all the same obligations to get permits from the city, paying all the fees, doing it in accordance with the city's approved plans. So it's not just the carte blanche authority just to roll into the city tomorrow and start digging at the roads. The city's still involved in that process, just like we would be with other utilities.
Thank you.
Chad, could we possibly, just say that they can use the poles and can't dig up anything? Could we go that route or not?
Yeah, so if the council has concerns or questions about sort of the scope of this, or you would want to renegotiate some of those provisions, what I would suggest is that you outline those tonight for staff, and then we can take those back to our negotiating team, which would include Nancy, and talk about things that we can and can't do, and then go back to the company and reopen negotiations with them. You're not legally obligated to approve this tonight. So if you do have specific concerns about, ways that you could limit this and whether that creates any potential liability issues related to equal access or other such things, those are things that honestly I prefer that we take back to Nancy and have those discussions with her, since she really is, the recognized expert, frankly, in the entire country, not just in Oregon. And she's extremely affordable. Her rates are similar to ours, and for lack of a better term, it would be foolish not to use her expertise here to sort of really give you sort of the outline of what you want to be able to do. So my recommendation would be, if you have specific things that you'd like to see happen or limitations placed in this, outline those for us tonight. Let us take those back to Nancy and sort of renegotiate to the extent we can and bring this back to you.
I do have a question. The franchise fee at 7%, how does that compare to other franchise fees that we have in terms of percentage?
I believe that is on the upper end of, I'll have to double check, but I think 7% is the most in regards to Oregon law that we can ask for. And that's what they offered initially. And I believe a few of our franchises are a little bit lower than that. So we asked for the max.
And having said that, it's my understanding that we may not see any fees from them for a year to 2 years or however long.
To bear
takes
up.
them. So this is not like an automatic, we get 7% every year. That's not the deal.
It'd be similar to like the phone company, they started out, they had a few customers, we had received a smaller check, and over the years, it steadily grew and grew. And then some of them shrink. You know, there's other companies that are not being used as widely as they used to be, such as CenturyLink. Used to receive a certain amount, now we receive a little bit less.
Right,
People
so,
have found other versions.
so just to be clear, so potentially we dig up parts of our city, let them dig up parts of our city for an unknown amount of return.
Correct, and they pay for all of that, yes, but there is also a right-of-way permit process that we have here at the city, so any project that they would want to do would go through the entire staff to make sure things were built correctly.
Right, but the
And
neighbors have
versus-
to live through that, that's the non-monetary, unintended consequence.
Sure.
Mhm.
I guess my thought on that, my response would be, no, there's not a guarantee we'll get 7% tomorrow. But if we say no, there's a guarantee we'll get 0% tomorrow. So 7% to give folks in town additional options. And I've had them dig up in front of my house, and it's minimal. They get it done and they get it filled back in. And I personally, if we were to take a vote on this right now, I feel like I would vote yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Both.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll read it once by title only. Madam Councilor, so this is ordinance 9454, an ordinance granting to Vero Broadband LLC, a Colorado limited liability company, franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a telecommunications network within the city of Deerpark, Oregon. This will come back to the city council again next month for another reading, and then the ordinance would come, if approved then, go into effect 30 days later. Thank you.
We have no old business. New business, US Post Office, update. I don't know how much we want to repeat.
I've got, during the process, I was taking notes as best that I could. I've got some bullet points I can go over really quickly, just to update people that may not have been at that meeting. And then if you agree or disagree, raise your hand and let me know. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right, so USPS says it wants to restore reliable local mail service in Deerheart as quickly as possible. They've not been able to find a new contract operator for the Deerheart Post Office. Applicants have backed out, failed to complete paperwork, or opposed costs are too high. Because of that, USPS said cluster boxes in Deerheart are becoming the most realistic long-term solution. Seaside will remain the temporary pickup location until a local solution is in place. USPS said a new building-based post office is still technically possible, but it's not the preferred long-term option. Street delivery in this conversation means cluster box delivery, not mail to each house. Under a cluster box system, residents would use their home street address instead of a PO box address. USPS says the current PO boxes and related equipment are generally USPS property and could eventually be removed if no new operator is found in the current location. The new local delivery setup would be mainly for permanent Deerheart resident addresses, not all current PO box renters from outside of town. USPS said that there would be no upfront cost to residents for the cluster boxes other than possible future lock change fees if keys are lost. Timeline depends on finding a location first. After that, installation could take roughly 30 days to 2 months if things move quickly. Bottom line is that USPS is still open to contractor, a contractor at the current location if one appears, but is increasingly leaning towards cluster boxes in Deerheart as the best path forward.
Can I add a couple things?
Please do.
Number one, they not only have not been successful in locating a contractor, they have no, right now, They have no contractor on the list to continue vetting. They have nobody to vet. They have no contractors in line saying, I want the spot. The other thing was that they clarified for us that they will not deliver to your driveway, that when they talk about home delivery, or residential delivery, they are no longer talking about a mailbox at the end of your driveway. They are now talking about a cluster box system similar to what we have in a couple of locations in Gerhart, and also what they put in up in the dunes, and what they have down in all new building going on in other cities around us.
Well, that's not what I heard. I heard they're only looking at one location for all the boxes.
Correct.
So there's no neighborhood.
Right, it won't be at the end of your
Nothing like a
street.
neighborhood.
No, they don't wanna
It's
invest
already
in
existing in Gerhart.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, it sounds like in 2015, they changed their policy to where they were going to phase out delivery, home delivery. Well, maybe not phase out, but new neighborhoods would not receive home delivery that is cluster box. It sounds like.
Centralized delivery.
So essentially, they're not giving us really any choice. We continue going to Seaside to pick up our mail, or we give them a spot to put in cluster boxes. But they did say that they would continue to advertise and look for a contractor up until the day that they dig for cluster boxes. Should that be the way we go? Really, we don't have any choice if we want to get mail within Gerhart.
Well, I don't see any difference between putting the cluster boxes over here, if this is the location, the central location, or whether people go to that building down. And-
Right. The only,
And I
yeah.
think that, I think with the rent fees that owner of the building property is given, there's no way in the world that people can make money. As a contractor, as a contract. Can't sell enough stamps.
So I'm just curious, have you heard any more about the possibility of that being foreclosed on?
I didn't see anything in motion. Certainly a possibility based on what I saw online as far as how far back taxes were. But this would not be the first time that has happened in this case, and that they go ahead and make payments and catch everything up.
When do they have to?
I'm not sure exactly.
It's
I think so.
So the key significant differences for people, if we were to go to cluster boxes from having to go to a PO box now, is that you would change your address from a PO box number to your actual physical address. So getting packages, ordering packages would be easier. That would be a significant change. You would still get your mail from a box, but there would not be anybody standing there to sell you stamps and to pick your packages. You would have to then go to either, you'd have your choice of going to Seaside, Easy Ship, Warrenton, the place of your choice. That would be the most significant difference. The PO box is just an address change, which initially would hurt, but it might benefit us in the end. The other big benefit would be, we don't have to do this. This is the third time we've done this in 2 years. Third time we've changed contractors in 2 years. And it sounds like and if you look at local newspaper articles, they're struggling, they're losing billions of dollars. And this is our best chance to solidify something that we won't have to change every couple of years going into the future.
But we can't buy a piece of property if it's more than $100,000, whether it's, you're talking about a house that might get foreclosed on, or this piece of property over here.
Well, we already own the next two lots. It's only the 40-foot piece of PP&L has, if we want to consolidate all that.
We own right here,
To
on the other side.
to the
of
bushes.
Grace Path.
Yeah, to the bushes. That are on the other side of the.
So we would need to get measurements from them, have them take a look at that and determine if that is enough square footage.
I've requested the information from them and we're waiting. And then after that, then we'll provide them with some potential areas. That's definitely going to be one. I've not been able to find very many spaces to hold how many were the estimated? 30 some boxes, 38.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
but we're limited for now. depending on how things happen in the future.
Well, I've already contacted you. You've already had contact and I've reached out and have not heard back from Merkley's office, correct? Or
Actually,
Whiten?
they said, we did hear back from them, I'm sorry,
Oh, okay.
and they said, keep us informed.
Okay, Javity is very interested in this. He's reaching out to the Secretary of
As well.
State. Okay, to let them know that this is, as far as ballots and voters pamphlets, this is something to watch. I let them know that in the past, we've had a problem with getting our voter pamphlets. And I think that all of Gerhart would be very upset if this were to be any bigger problem for us having to go to Seaside. So from what I understand, that what I've seen down there since I brought it to their attention, they are checking IDs against boxes to make sure that people are getting the right. And I haven't heard any complaints of people getting somebody else's mail. That was a problem initially, was, this isn't my mail, where's my mail kind of thing. I haven't heard any complaints along those lines. So there's been some improvement. And I know that this is putting stress on the Seaside staff there too. And I do empathize with them having to deal with a lot. And as we go into the summer months, trying to find parking down there during tourist season is that's gonna be delightful, or not.
Okay, anything else on this then?
So, you're gonna follow up with them, Chad? Okay, keep us informed.
Would it be possible for your bullet points to go out on a blog post, just so that people who follow the blog would?
I'll work with Ms. Christine, we'll make something happen, yeah.
The next item is the street dance permission request. Chad, do you wanna walk us through this?
Yes, thank you, council. So Melissa Eddy has submitted correspondence, and it's on the back of this, to council requesting permission to hold a street dance again this summer on Pacific Way. The proposed date and time are Friday, July 3rd, 2026, from 7:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm not sure, I think this might be the 5th or the 4th. I'll have to look that up. The street dance has become a community event. Many people look forward to it. There is interest in continuing it again this year. There are a few planning details still to work through, including logistics, insurance, event rules, and support, and the availability of volunteer support, which if you'd like to volunteer for this, and it does happen, please contact Melissa Eddy. We need some more volunteers for this as well. I can provide background and answer any questions. It is what we're asking is council direction to move forward with or not with the street dance. I will say there are a few things still left up in the air that we are in discussions with Melissa Eddy and our insurance company to make sure that the city and Melissa are covered in the event that anything might happen. And those discussions are still ongoing. It's a little bit more complicated than I would like. What Melissa is asking for is the city she puts this in her form, but to round it up, it would be for the city to provide $1,700 worth, $1,662.50, where the Gerhart Homeowners Association would also put up $1,662.50. And she's asking that we continue to do that. We have budgeted for that in our budget last year. The only other situation that is coming up is she requires from the city some electricity for some lights at the event location to make sure that we have porta potties at or near the fire station. So we probably just use the one at the fire station. Make available the tennis court bathrooms, block off the road for the event, pick up and drop off barrels from minimums. That means for the lighting. There is a potential for some more cost depending on how this insurance issue comes out. And I think that what I'd like to do in order to keep planning going is that the council to consider approving this event as it's written at the $1,662.50. I'll round that up to $1,700. And then I will come back to the council in the future if there is additional costs that we have to consider We won't spend any of the money at this point until next month, but at least the planning can continue. And then, next month I can update the council on the insurance item, whether or not it's an issue. It may not be, and we might be able to continue forward, but I got a feeling that there might be some additional costs that I would then come to you to move forward with the entire program.
You mentioned that there was an accident last year, somebody tripped on a curb, perhaps they were intoxicated or something.
Hard to say, that somebody did trip on a curb and bang themselves up a little bit. Fire department was right there with medics to take care of them right away. It was minor to medium injury, and there was no other issues with that. They didn't contact us afterwards.
Has there been alcohol in the past at the street dance?
We don't sell it, but the restaurants do. They have some alcohol and some foods that they serve. It's kind of a good day for them to open up and showcase their businesses. And so those businesses are able to serve alcohol within their walls. And people occasionally will walk out after having a few drinks. It was dark as well, so it's hard to say exactly what caused the issue. Maybe there were a few drinks on board, but I can't say that the person was, overly inebriated. So that worried us, and Melissa brought it up just a little while ago. So we're investigating that to make sure that we and her are covered. Initially, what our insurance company basically said was that unless the city is running the event, it's going to be hard for them to insure it the way that we would as we would do the firefighters ball, which we run an additional insurance rider on that costs $1,000. But what we are investigating on if volunteers could be insured separately, such as Melissa Eddy as a volunteer, to make sure that she's covered as well. So we're looking into that. There may be a cost involved with that. And if there is, we won't just go forward. We would come and talk to you first.
Okay, so in the past, the fireman's ball insurance was taken out through the district. Okay, they're the ones, the district is the one that puts the ball on.
The association.
The association, okay? But the district was the one that was always covered the insurance. Not the city, the district.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the way it's been within the last 10.
Okay, well, maybe I gotta look to that. Okay, the second thing is if maybe the Gerhard Homeowners Association should put the policy out, since they're 50-50 on this.
And we're investigating that. We're just not sure that's possible.
Well, they could pay half.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, as far as the alcohol is concerned, it's just like the fireman's ball. Majority of the people that show up at the fireman's ball have already had plenty of alcohol consumption at their houses. So you can't, there's no way that you can police that. So in reality,
My concern is what that would mean for our staff. So I would definitely want to hear more about it, because our staff is already, people don't realize that our staff is going at it for like 4 days straight around July 4th. Y'all are spread thin. And then on top of that, our firemen are breaking out and responding to calls. So I would, this is such an important event. I would like to see us find a way to figure this out. But as far as making actual staff, it would have to be volunteers. It would have to be volunteers. Staff can't take this on. We've got too much else loaded up on you that week.
And that really is the issue, is that we do not have enough to take this on, and so to ensure it correctly, that's what it would take. Unless there's another workaround. We're working with the insurance company, but it's not looking like so far. So we'll look at the options, and I'll bring that back. You can table this entire thing until next month if you prefer. It maybe puts a little strain on the planning, but I think it would be appropriate.
Has the Gerhard Homeowners Association asked their people if anybody would volunteer?
Yeah, and they were integral in getting things started, and there has been volunteers within that organization that have worked. It's just not enough, sporadic, even far between. So, the last few years, staff has definitely, tried to help that, some of them, yes.
Well, the police would be blocking off the road, right? You're not gonna ask volunteers to block off the road, is that
Public
right?
Works.
Yeah, we put
Public
signs,
Works.
yeah, we put signs out, all of our signs, and we put signs further ahead, letting people know that there's gonna be no way through so that they can make arrangements for it. It works pretty well. But it does take some staff time to set up, and typically what it is the staff helps set it up and gets it ready. And then a few people volunteer to put it in
And clean up.
and clean up.
Well, this is no doubt, this is a super important event. So I personally, I would agree to this, but yeah, if there's gonna be more money involved, then we need to talk about it.
How much is in our celebration budget?
I would have to look, but there is enough in there to cover it.
To cover this.
It's usually about 2,000, I think.
You want the budget?
Well, we have $3,000 in there and we've spent, right now, what's available is 1,292, but they usually cross fiscal years. Because we paid 1,700 already, and so we would pay some now and then we pay some after the 4th. So after the new budget comes in, well, it's kind of a two thing that we pay. So I think it would be fine. Because it's just, we'll probably pay half of the 1,600, we probably pay half before, because she gets some supplies and then she turns in the rest after.
What's the limit?
Okay. It'd be up to what we have available now, plus what we decide to budget for next year.
Yeah,
So
I
it's a
think
little bit up in the air.
I wouldn't recommend going over 2,500.
So maybe somebody in the homeowners association is an insurance agent. That's Melissa's problem.
So can we bifurcate this like you suggested and say, this looks good, but more money is gonna have to,
Discuss.
gonna have to be discussed?
I think that'd work great.
Okay. I'll volunteer, but only for 2 hours from 6 to 8. Can tell them was,
A little bit of setup, make sure it's going good.
yeah.
Sounds good.
I always volunteer, and I would actually be willing to donate money, and I'm sure there are other people that would be willing to donate, but if we're talking $20,000, that's.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything around there, but it's whether or not the city can, how we're going to accept responsibility. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Our employees are between the parade and, the beach cleanup and everything else that we ask of especially our public works guys and our police department. They are stretched thin. They get no time to even breathe that week, and I know it.
Okay, thank you. We got the consensus.
Next item, we received a sexual assault awareness month proclamation from the harbor, Julia Aiken. And I would like council to consider proclamation and would ask that Chad, you all agree, read down to the area of the proclamation that says statistics. So the top half.
I agree.
Chad.
Okay, we have a consensus statement.
Kinda, sorry.
Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation, April 2026. April marks Sexual Assault Awareness Month, also known as SAAM, a time to honor 25 years of progress to recommit to creating safer communities for all. This year's theme, 25 years strong, looking back, moving forward, celebrates the resilience of survivors and the communities that have worked for change. 25 years, SAM has supported survivors, raised awareness, and inspired action to prevent sexual assault, abuse, and harassment. As we reflect on how far we have come, we also recognize the work that lies ahead. Prevention starts with all of us. It is in how we support one another, practice consent, and create spaces rooted in care and respect. When we act with intention, we move closer to a future free from violence. We honor the survivors who have shared their stories and the advocates who have led the way. Their courage reminds us that prevention is possible and that each of us has a role to play. As we look to the next 25 years, we renew our commitment to building a future free from sexual violence. Together, we can continue to strengthen prevention, support healing, and create communities where everyone feels safe and valued.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the contingent purchase and sale agreement, or PSA. And then we have a couple of pieces of testimony that goes with it. Chad, you want to take this up then?
Yes, thank you, Council. So I'll read the synopsis. The City Council previously authorized the City Administrator and Legal Counsel to pursue negotiations regarding the possible acquisition of 1175 Pacific Way, also referred to as the Palmer property, and to return to the proposed purchase and sales agreement for Council consideration at a later date. A proposed purchase and sales agreement has now been prepared for Council's review. The agreement would be contingent on specified conditions, including but not limited to voter approval of the proposed bond measure and other terms contained in the agreement. Council is being asked to consider whether to authorize entry into the proposed contingent purchase and sales agreement. Your options are to approve entry into the PSA for 1175 Pacific Way, subject to the terms and conditions presented, or decline to approve the proposed agreement, or provide direction to staff and legal counsel and take other action as desired. In there, you see a possible motion. The legal analysis this proposed agreement has been prepared with assistance from legal counsel, and City Attorney Chad Jacobs is available for questions, of course. And the financial analysis on this is the proposed agreement is contingent on stated conditions, including voter approval for the bond measure. No bond proceeds would be available unless the measure is approved by voters. Any future financing, bond issuance, or related budget actions would be subject to applicable legal requirements and subsequent council action. Also in this packet, including the PSAs in there, which I have worked with the folks in negotiation on this PSA. They have seen that and seen this product and they agreed that it looks good. We have then two letters. One letter that came from Bateman Seidel from Carrie Richter, attorney, and also a response to that letter from Council Chad Jacobs. And between Chad and I, we should be able to answer any questions that you may have about this PSA.
I do want to just point out one thing in the reading of this earlier, and I spoke with Chad on the possible motion that has been laid out. The line subject to substantially the same terms and conditions. I would feel more comfortable if the word substantially was taken out. What that was meant to mean is that this one that you're looking at here is substantially the same as what we looked at last month. And this is a red line of 2 or 3 changes that were made over the last month. That's why the word was inserted. But I don't feel like it should be in the final motion, if we make one, because it makes it sound to me like it might be changed in the future to say we authorize it substantially the same. Does anybody want to make a motion?
And then we'll have discussion.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I make a motion to approve into the contingent purchase and sale agreement for 1175 Pacific Way, subject to the terms and conditions presented with the change that Paulina has suggested. However, I would like to have a little bit of conversation about some recommendations or something that Chad suggested in his letter to us.
Second.
Okay, Dana, do you want to start with your concerns then,
Uh,
or suggestions?
Yeah, well, first of all, I guess I want to start back to give a little bit of history, and that is, when we first put out the poll to the citizens and said, hey, you don't like the price of building new, we know that nobody wants to build new, or we don't think that you want to build new, this is the price if you want to build new, or you could give us $10 million, our experts tell us for $10 million, we could make a pretty significant change, but we would be stuffing it all into the same real estate footprint that we have now, but we could probably do that for $10 million. And when we put it out to the poll to the folks, that was the deal. And at that time, our expectation was that we would, because we cannot build up on that existing building. If we're going to remodel it, it will not support a second floor. The only way to fit everything in was we would definitely have to move Public Works. And due to all of the costs as a public entity building, it would probably run us about $2 million to try and stuff it in here, and we wouldn't necessarily get something that would be ideal. We had no idea that Palmbrook property and Hanson property was going to become available. That was a surprise to us in January. From my perspective, I looked at that and said, that property is move-in ready for us. I don't know if people realize how much a fire truck weighs, but if you Google it, they'll tell you anywhere from 16 to 20 to 40,000 pounds. I know 1,000 gallons of water alone weighs 8,300. So that's a fire truck. It's not something you could just go park anywhere. You can't just go park it in my garage. You can't park it in your garage. This building was built to hold dump trucks. The fire department went down and looked at it and said this would be ideal for our interim use. So it would alleviate us from having to go and find a new place to use as an interim fire station. And then it would give us the room for growth that we need to move Public Works. And it would cost us less than what they told us it would cost to do something less than build something brand new ideal. So we'd be saving money all the way around. But the bond was not contingent on purchasing this property. I want to make it clear. The other thing is I've seen some comments in the public that have implied that these two families that have long histories with our community are somehow taking advantage of Gearhart. And that offends me, just offends me. And if somebody doesn't understand that if you need a 4-bedroom house and on the market, there's only 3-bedroom houses, that you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for a 4-bedroom house, or a 4-bedroom house is worth what it is if it's the only thing out there. And this property is the only piece of property that I know of within our city limits that is move-in ready and ready for us to go. I think the price is appropriate and it's gonna save us money. And so I just wanted to add my 2 cents on that. I would be open to the suggestions that Chad made as far as clearing up and making it clear to people that if they vote no, then we have no intention of going down there and trying to buy this property. We have no way of buying this property if they vote no.
Any other questions or comments?
I totally agree with what Dana said, you know, I mean, this is the only piece of property in Gearhart. Okay, everything else has been voted down. This is the only piece of property in Gearhart that can facilitate the public works, and it's ready-made. I mean, the only thing you have to do is change out the windows from plastic to actual windows.
Mhm.
I mean, it was built as a truck shop, and it's got lots of space. So,
Sharon, questions, comments?
No, I don't like the fact that, as Chad Jacobs says, that it's gonna limit our options if we put it in there as a specific contingency, but I understand your point and,
Well, I'm willing to go by whatever Chad recommends that, because Chad, I understand you have made a number of negotiations across the state. Similar to this, I trust you. I mean, I've bought a lot of property. I haven't bought any commercial property, but I've been involved in a lot of public projects, and I know enough to go by what your attorney tells you. So I'm willing to take your advice.
Yeah, Council President, Council, the issue of the financing contingency is just to ensure that that's just one more sort of check on the checklist of things that we want to say that we need to achieve before we're obligated to buy the property. And I think it's important for the council and the public and, the attorney, Carrie Richter, who wrote the letter, to all keep in mind that this is just one of multiple contingencies. And with the multiple contingencies, there are numerous ways that if the city needs to back out of this agreement, it can do so. And so, I don't want to overstate this idea that like if the bond measure fails, that we still have to buy this property, because it's just simply not true. And so if you want to, for political reasons or any other sort of reason, limit that contingency to say that, it's only related to the bond measure, we can certainly do so. The reason, as was just alluded to, that the language is written a little more broadly is to provide flexibility. And that flexibility can come in numerous ways. As the city, even if the bond measure is approved, the city doesn't have to issue all $10 million worth of the bonds. The measure is for up to $10 million. And the reason I say that is because it's possible that something could come along where the city could get a grant, or the city could get a zero interest loan from the federal or state government, or something else could come along where you get a better interest rate than what you're able to get on the bonds. You just never know what's going to happen. And if any of those opportunities come up, this language is meant to provide you with that flexibility to take advantage of those situations. You could probably still take advantage of those situations even if we amend the language. This is just a contingency that the city has authority to waive on its own accord. So even if the bond measure fails and you wanted to still move ahead with the purchase, regardless of what this language says, you could waive that contingency if some other better deal came along. So I don't want to oversell like the importance of this contingency language, because you've got all these other contingencies that we're going to look at. We're going to look at not only the financing, but land use approvals, the environmental inspections. And then also, just at the end of the day, the council has to approve this one more time before we're actually obligated to buy it. So if, for example, the voters turn down the bond measure and there's just not political will to move forward with this project overall, that could be the basis for the city council saying, no, we're not going to approve this. So multiple ways to get out of this deal down the road. But part of this is because there is a bond measure and it's going to the ballot. Part of it's political. So, from a legal perspective and a negotiation perspective, I don't think you need to change this language. If you all, who are more in tune with sort of the political atmosphere in the city, believe it would be helpful for the bond measure to have that language more narrow within the agreement, then by all means, we can certainly do so. And so it's really more of a political decision than a legal consideration.
Aren't we also limited by what's in our charter? And our charter says that we cannot buy anything over $100,000 without voters' permission.
Right.
So, I mean, we're shackled, we're hobbled by that. So that's non-principled argument. Yeah. So, but I mean, again, I would like to get back to, I do not think this family is taking advantage of us. And I do not think that we should cut off our nose to spite our face or do any more costly delays. We're trying to avoid delays, and our goal is to bring this baby in under $10 million. And this is an example of us looking for an alternate, taking advantage of a way to reduce the cost that we thought we would have to pay. So I support it.
And if it passes, we could do donations, try and get
reduce-
somebody who,
We can sell bricks, we can sell naming rights, we can do all kinds of things.
to not have.
But we can't even talk about any of that right now.
All right, we ready for a vote?
I am,
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Did we hear Sharon?
Was that unanimous?
Mhm.
That would be unanimous. Thank you.
And we have the addition to the agenda, which is new business authorization to use water funds for completion of the water meter project. Jack?
Yes, I can pull that up here real quick, too. Just reorganize myself a little bit. Thank you. So this is an addition, I appreciate this, council. The reason, excuse me, Gary, could you guys take that one out there? You're hitting the microphone. So this is an addition to the agenda because the availability of the installers came up just recently to help us install new water meters. So that's why, we're kind of moving on this and pushing it forward. So the synopsis here is the city is approximately 240 water meters remaining to complete this phase of the meter replacement project. Staff currently has approximately 140 meters in inventory, leaving roughly 100 additional meters still needed, along with approximately 30 extra meters to keep in hand for repairs and replacements. Staff is also requesting in this funding for installation services estimated at approximately $14,000, and for updated meter reading software and equipment that we know we will need very soon, as the current system is no longer expected to be supported. And that's just the software and the computer reading technology. So completing this portion of the project would improve meter accuracy, help reduce unaccounted for water, improve leak detection, and provide better information for both staff and water consumers or customers. So your options are to approve the requested funds up to $60,000, motion to amend the requested amount, or deny it. We have a recommendation funding request up to 60. We have a recommended motion there for you. The legal analysis is that this expenditure is related to water utility infrastructure and system operations and may be authorized by council to use the reserve funds. And the financial analysis is those funds have an approximate balance of $1,099,219. And if this is approved to use $60,000, that would leave us with $1,039,219 in the water reserve fund. And then there's just a recap at the end for the what I just read to you. Also, any questions for me?
I have a question. The updated meter reading software, we already have software that is reading the meters that have already been installed.
Yeah, so many of our meters, most of our meters are in place and working. We did find some that weren't working that we installed a long time ago. They will be part of this replacement. That meter software and hardware that we have tells us some pretty neat things, hour by hour, what the usage is. Very handy for finding leaks, very handy for describing to customers what's going on. It's really been very helpful, and to us as far as water conservation goes. So currently it works, but it's going to be phased out very soon. So we wanted to include that into this project as well.
Well, how soon? Like when will the software need to be upgraded or repurchased?
They're not supporting it any longer.
They're not supporting it now.
It's called Easy Reader. And this is software that we are using, so the meter program is not up and running yet. We still use a third-party meter reader that goes out and manually, physically looks at every meter. This system is a system where we would take over the meter reading and we would electronically drive around town and it picks up the meter. We purchased this system about 10 years ago.
A little more than that, but close.
And so the software came with that system and it just was never implemented. Last year, we had some older meters that we thought that we needed to replace, and that the system would be up and running. When we ran our first test run to get this going, it turned out that we still had about 250 that had the old meter antenna that wasn't working. So there's no way that we could take over the reading system and run this system. Literally a week ago, we found out that Ether, this system that we use, but not officially, is no longer being supported. They're phasing it out. They're changing to system text. It's a new system. We don't have to buy a whole new system. Some of the components still work, but the actual software system, they're changing and upgrading. So we're gonna have to get that. We won't have a chance because they won't support it.
So we'll be taking the meter reading in-house.
Yes.
And it pay some of the third party person?
We pay about $1,300 a month.
So that expense will go away.
Yes, and it is more accurate because humans make errors. And although the meter reading does make errors, it gives you a lot of more electronic reports. So when that system goes in, it gives you a report that says, this house may have a leak, this house may have this, like on the spot, like right then, rather than us having to highlight, Public Works go out and look at the meter, is it spinning, is it not spinning? Because that's what we have to do.
Do we have any guarantee as to how many years the new system will be supported?
Probably not.
It is an ongoing process, so the meters do age out and they become less efficient and don't meter water correctly. And the electronics will give out eventually. So it is recommended that we replace all of our meters every 10 years. The nice thing about us for phasing this system in for so long is we had quite a spread of meters in different dates so that we would not be in the future having to replace them all at once or in large quantity, huge quantity again. But it's going to be an ongoing expense to be able to budget for this without having to come back to the reserve account in the future, so that every year we take out and replace, say, 100 meters or more. Whether or not they necessarily need it, the aging process would indicate they do. What happens is that when you meter your water with an old meter, it doesn't report all of that water. So for our conservation efforts, we've been doing a much better job with these new meters in here. And our water loss for the city of Gerhart is very low for a city. The water loss is the point to where what we make versus what we sell, the difference is the water loss that happens naturally through the cities. Ours is very low, which is great.
Do you know how old the meter is at my house? I mean, like, do you have that data?
Yes.
So you would know which under are gonna get replaced every year.
Yeah, we know every
Now,
age of every meter. That's a project that Christie had taken on when she'd started many years ago. And we have an active database and it's in our system
previously we
and
didn't,
accurate.
and now we do.
Do we know what we've already spent, what we have so far?
No, I can only guess, but it's probably over 150,000. Over the period of time to replace, how many meters do we have? About 1,600. Meters are about $250 a piece. And then the labor put them in. Yeah, it's not cheap to provide water.
This project's been going on for many years.
Very long time, and this, we hope, is very near to the conclusion of it, so that we can begin to do our own reading.
Not till they don't support it.
So is there any avenue or?
Good.
Is there any pathway for us when the meters need to be replaced in the future for us to assign that cost to the homeowner? Or is that something the city will always have to pay for?
That would be potentially an ordinance change for the city to make that something that would rely on that. We do charge new homeowners,
$2,500.
$2,500 to connect to our water system, and that includes a meter. After that, right now, currently, we are replacing the meter. Could that be changed in the fees and that in the ordinance? I believe it can.
I'm not, I'd have to think about it. I'm just asking.
I think the one advantage of changing all the meters out and then getting the new software and everything like that is, I don't know how many people come in to Justine because they've got a stuck toilet and they're not down here for 3 months. And all of a sudden they get the water bill every two months. And, you know, it's tripled or quadrupled or whatever it is. This would be able to tell us when to notify that property owner that there's something wrong with the water usage.
And you can tell the day and the hour that it starts and when it is fixed.
Right.
It's amazing. We just had a gentleman bought a house. He had lived there for, he doesn't live here. They haven't moved in. They've never come down and stayed. They've owned it 6 months. So they've had a few billing cycles. Their water was high, but with somebody, we don't know they weren't staying there. And so it was a consistent read, but it was kind of high, which isn't unusual during the summer months. People are watering, that type of thing. But we had done a profile on our practice test, and it had come up that there was a high leak there. So we called in, he came down, and it turned out that his hot tub was running. He didn't know anything about it. Like I said, they just bought the house like 6 months ago, didn't have any manuals, found out the problem. Then we did another profile, and it's still a problem. So there was an irrigation leak where it was running off the 7th cycle, but we could tell that something was still happening. And so he was paying approximately 30 cons, which is a lot, every cycle, and it will go to 0.
So how fast can you catch something like that with the system?
We would still catch it every other month unless we run, throughout. They keep it in the system and run it. Public Works could do that.
Can you set it up on like a digital Rolodex to where it is scheduled to do a run?
They have to take the computer out and go around.
So the way it
But
works
they
is-
don't have, they just have to drive.
They being if
Public Works.
Public Works.
Mhm.
So
Public
we
Works
could
is an
say,
antenna.
we could say we're gonna do random audits, drive around.
There's
Yeah, absolutely, we could do that.
once
They
a
can even
month,
do it while
Public
they're
Works.
working.
Yeah, once a month, Public Works will put a receiver on the truck, drive around, not every street, every other street. Some streets you have to hit, some you don't. It'll pick them all up. In that process, the old software, but also blink a red dot while they're driving around to show that something's been running for more than 6 or 7 hours, I think. So that would tell us immediately that there was a problem. We could do that
It would
almost
be
on a
important
daily
during
basis
winter
if we
months.
wanted to. We intend to go and do the entire town, potentially change the billing cycle. Every house once a month, but we've got to do, and what that will do for us is help us catch those leaks. It's better for water conservation. It adds a little bit of work for us, it'll add expense to us. So we need to research on how that's going to work, and then we really need to see how the system's gonna work as we finish it and do this new software, this new process. So that's yet to be seen, but that's one of our possibilities is every month.
So a homeowner can't like log in somewhere in
No.
real time and see.
No, there are systems that do that. Cannon Beach has that system, but no, we do not have that.
Systems that the water meters talk to the hydrants call the city and let you know. So they're having conversations then.
So these new meters still have they've still got the readout.
Yes,
So, because I take care of just for friends of mine out in Palisades there. And there was a very, very slow leak in the toilet. I mean, I didn't, it was, you had to lift the tank lid off in order to be able to even see it.
Yeah, there's something called the rosebud that's in the mirror,
The spider.
and you can see it spinning very slowly. Then you know you have a leak if everything shut off in your house.
And the new ones say flow. Flow, they say flow on there.
So do you-
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for funds up to $60,000.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? I don't think there were any. Council concerns? Preston?
Also concerns, well, I guess we're starting to see a bunch of yard signs go up, so my concern is that we need to educate the voting population as far as where this, if this doesn't pass, what are they gonna do?
Good point.
You know, I mean, we've been rocking a hard spot right now. And it's like Tom said, you know, if we don't do something, we're gonna lose our volunteer fire department. And I just had a discussion with Joey Daniels just last week. He told me, he said, there's no way in the world that they can cover gear if these volunteers quit. And then what happens,
Shout it from the rooftops.
no, I mean, and then what happens is everybody's fire rating's gonna go up. Everybody's fire insurance is gonna go up. I got Surf Pines when I was fire chief here. I got Surf Pines who paid $25 a month. They could leave their hoses running 24 hours a day for 365 days a year, $25 a month. They didn't have a water system out there. They were on well fields, shallow well fields. When I got out in front of the homeowners association, I just told them, I said, if you guys don't agree to Warrenton's fixing your water system and everything like that, my next letter is going to be to the Fire Insurance Rating Bureau down in LA. I don't know what you're paying for fire insurance in your house, but given the climate that you guys have out there, with all the foliage and everything else, I can guarantee you that your fire insurance is gonna go up 5 times. And that was a real wake-up call for them. And they agreed to buy in with warranty and be metered. That's how Surf Pines got theirs. So if this thing here goes down and the volunteers decide that they've had it, everybody in every residence, every business, everybody is gonna be paying more for their fire insurance. That's the bottom line. And that's what they need. So whatever it is that they're paying for a bond in order to keep this station here afloat, that's pennies. Because if this fire station doesn't, you know, if we don't keep this thing here, they are gonna be, if they wanted fire protection, they are gonna have to be building a new fire station. And I can tell you, being in the construction business, it's skyrocketing. Materials, labor, everything. We used to frame houses for $35 a square foot. Now we're looking at somewhere around $250 a square foot.
Oh, I know somebody who's paying over 600.
Well, I'm just talking about. I'm talking about these dingers. And when So, anyway.
Thank you. And Dana? Sure, got nothing. Got nothing more. Motion to adjourn?
I'll give you a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Malina.